The forest is silent, too silent. Oberleutnant Heinrich Müller crouches behind the moss-covered trunk of an oak somewhere east of Saint-Lô. July 1944, Normandy. The air smells like wet earth and cordite. His uniform is soaked through, 3 days without sleep. His hands shake when he lifts the binoculars. The leather strap is slick with sweat and rain. He hears it before he sees it, a low rumble. Mechanical, American. His crew hears it too. The loader's face goes pale. They've been hunting Shermans for 2 days. Knocked out 4. Good kills. Clean shots. But something feels different this time. The Americans have been moving differently since yesterday. More cautious. More coordinated. The rumble grows louder. Müller raises his hand. Silence. The forest swallows sound. Birds fled hours ago. Only the engine remains. Closer now. 50 meters. 40. The undergrowth is too thick to see clearly. Shadows move between the trees. One shadow, then another. Then he sees it. A Sherman. Moving through the trees. Slow. Deliberate. But it's not advancing blind like the others. It's not exposing its flanks. It's turning, scanning. The turret rotates left, then right. The tank stops. Engine idling. Waiting. Like it knows. Müller's gunner whispers through the radio static. Permission to fire. Müller watches. The Sherman pivots again. Smooth. Controlled. Still scanning. His Panzer IV has the perfect shot. Flank exposed. 200 meters. They could end this in one round, but something is wrong. His hand hovers over the radio. The Sherman sits there. Not advancing. Not retreating. Just waiting. Müller has seen this before. Yesterday. 3 Shermans moved into a clearing. His platoon waited for the perfect moment. When they fired, 2 more Shermans emerged from cover they didn't know existed. Flanking fire. Coordinated. His wingman burned. The Americans are learning, or they knew all along. The Sherman tank arrived in Europe with a reputation it didn't ask for. The Germans called it the Tommykotcher, the Tommy Cooker. British crews had another name, Ronson. Lights first time every time. American crews didn't joke about it. They climbed inside knowing the statistics. A Sherman hit by an 88mm shell burned in seconds. Crews had 8 seconds to bail out, maybe less. The Sherman's armour was thin, welded steel. 64mm on the front glasses, 38 on the sides. A Panther's gun could penetrate that at 1500 meters, a Tiger at 2000. American tankers knew they were outgunned. They knew they were out-armoured. They climbed in anyway. By the summer of 1944, the bocage of Normandy had become a graveyard of American armour. The terrain was worse than anyone expected. Hedgerows older than nations, some dated back to Roman times, earthen walls topped with centuries of tangled roots and brambles, 10 feet high, 20 feet thick, every field surrounded by them, sunken roads cutting through like trenches, thick mud that swallowed vehicles, perfect defensive terrain, every field a kill box, every lane an ambush. German tanks sat hull down in tree lines, invisible until they fired. Commanders picked their positions carefully, perfect angles, perfect concealment. They waited for American armour to push through the narrow gaps, then they fired. Panthers, Tigers, even the older Panzer IVs could kill a Sherman at close range. Shermans rolled forward and died. The numbers were brutal. In the first weeks after D-Day, entire tank battalions were shredded. The 2nd Armoured Division lost dozens of tanks in days. The 3rd Armoured fared worse. 4 Shermans lost for every Panther destroyed, 5 for every Tiger. The kill ratios were unsustainable. Crews climbed out of burning wrecks, faces black with smoke, hands blistered. They were assigned new tanks within hours, sometimes minutes. They climbed back in. Some didn't make it to their 3rd tank. Some didn't make it to their 2nd. Unit cohesion suffered. Morale cracked. But the Sherman kept coming, not because it was better, because there were more of them. American factories stamped out 50,000 Shermans during the war. Detroit, Gary, Pittsburgh, assembly lines running 24 hours. A Sherman rolled off the line every 40 minutes at peak production. The math was industrial, overwhelming. Germany built 6,000 Panthers during the entire war, 1,700 Tigers, each one a masterpiece of engineering, each one requiring hundreds of man-hours, precision parts, specialised labour. The math was simple, brutal, industrial, but math doesn't stop an 88mm round. Crews needed something else, something beyond armour, beyond numbers. By late June, tank commanders across Normandy began noticing something. German ambushes were becoming more predictable. Panthers always hit from the flanks, always from cover, always waited for the perfect shot. They had to. Fuel was scarce. German logistics were collapsing under Allied air superiority. Ammunition was rationed, every shell had to count, every shot had to kill. American doctrine was different. Shermans travelled in groups, 5 tanks per platoon, 15 per company. They moved fast, spread wide, overwhelming firepower through volume. One Sherman might die, but 4 more would flank. The Germans called it the swarm tactic. They hated it, but they respected it. Volume didn't matter if you couldn't see the enemy first. That's when the radios changed everything. The Sherman had something no German tank possessed in the same capacity. Something the Panther crews didn't even realise was a disadvantage until it was too late. Every single Sherman had a radio, not just the command tank, not just the platoon leader, every tank, every crew, driver, gunner, loader, commander, all linked together in a network that covered entire battalions. SCR 508 radios for command tanks, SCR 528 for the rest. Frequency hopping capability, clear communication up to 20 miles under good conditions, 5 to 10 miles in the bocage. German tanks relied on flag signals and visual contact. Platoon leaders had radios, excellent ones. The few G5 was reliable, well engineered, encrypted, but only 1 tank in 3 carried one. The rest followed visual commands, flags, hand signals, flares. In open terrain this worked. German tank tactics were honed on the steppes of Russia. Wide open spaces, long sight lines, commanders could see their entire platoon, but the bocage didn't allow for visual control. Communication was limited, situational awareness was fragmented. A Panther commander in one hedgerow couldn't see his wingman in the next, couldn't coordinate in real time, couldn't adapt to changing threats. American tank crews talked to each other constantly. Every crew heard every transmission. Every threat spotted was a threat shared. Every manoeuvre coordinated was a manoeuvre executed simultaneously. The network made them stronger than the sum of their parts, and in the hedgerows of Normandy, that changed the war. Staff Sergeant Joe Dyson sits inside his Sherman near Carentan. July 11th. Morning. The radio crackles. Static first. Then the voice. Clear. Calm. Able 2. Able led. Movement left. 200 yards. Tree line. Dyson doesn't see it yet, but Able led does. The platoon leader's tank is 50 yards ahead, hull down behind a small rise. Scanning from elevation, he's already marking the target, already coordinating. Able 3, Able led, flank right, Able 4, hold position, Able 2, advance and draw. Dyson's gunner shifts the turret left, eyes on the periscope. Still nothing visible, just trees, shadows, morning mist clinging to the ground, but he trusts the call. Able led can see what they can't. Able 2, copy. Dyson's driver eases the Sherman forward, slow. The suspension creaks. Mud sucks at the treads. The engine's roar fills the compartment. 50 yards. 40. The tree line is dark, silent. Every instinct screams ambush. Then the radio again. Able 2, stop. Able 3 in position. Dyson raises his fist. The driver brakes. Engine idling. Dyson can hear his own breathing inside the leather helmet. The loader shifts nervously. The radio hisses. Able 3, I see him. Panzer 4, hull down. 11 o'clock, range 300. Dyson still doesn't have eyes on it, but Able 3 does. The flanking Sherman has moved through a gap in the hedgerow they scouted yesterday. It has the angle, side armour exposed. The Panzer crew doesn't know Able 3 exists. Able 3, fire when ready. The crack of the 75mm echoes across the field. Dyson's crew feels it in their chests. A physical wave. Smoke rises from the tree line. The Panzer 4 jerks. Reverse gear grinding. It tries to back out. Able 3 fires again. Hit. Orange flame. Black smoke. The Panzer stops. Hatch opens. Crew bailing out. Dyson's Sherman never fired a shot. The German crew never saw Able 3. They were watching Dyson, waiting for him to advance into their kill zone, waiting for the perfect flank shot. They had discipline. They had patience. The Americans didn't give them time to wait. Across Normandy, this played out 100 times a day, thousands of times across the entire front. German tanks sat in ambush positions, expecting American armour to blunder forward. Instead, Sherman platoons moved like wolves. 1 tank spotted, another flanked, a third suppressed, all 5 talking, all 5 coordinating. The Germans couldn't counter it. They tried. Oberkommando issued new directives, more aggressive patrolling, better reconnaissance, faster reaction times, But without radios in every tank, the directives were useless. Panther platoons operated with one radio per 3 tanks. Commanders gave orders, crews executed, communication was vertical, rigid, efficient in open terrain. The German system was built on discipline and training, and it worked. For years it worked, in Poland, in France, in Russia, but the Bocage was different. A Panther commander couldn't see his wingmen through the hedgerows, couldn't coordinate flanking manoeuvres in real time, couldn't call out threats his crew couldn't see. By the time flag signals passed between tanks, the Shermans had already moved, already flanked, already fired. German after-action reports began noting the same problem. Enemy armour demonstrates high coordination, multiple units engage simultaneously from different vectors, radio discipline superior, reaction time minimal. They didn't say it outright, but they were losing the information war. The Sherman's armour was still thin, its gun still weaker than the Panther's 75mm, still weaker than the Tiger's 88mm, but it saw first, moved first, flanked first, and in the hedgerows, first was everything. August 1944, Operation Cobra, the breakout. American armour floods through the gap near Saint-Lô, hundreds of Shermans. The Bocage gives way to open farmland, rolling hills, long sightlines, villages burned to shells, roads cratered by weeks of bombardment. This is Panther country. German commanders pull their armour back, setting up killing fields, wide open spaces, Shermans silhouetted against the horizon. The perfect engagement range, 1,500 metres. The Panther's 75mm could punch through Sherman armour at that distance. The Sherman's 75mm couldn't touch a Panther's frontal plate, not even close. The math should have favoured Germany, it didn't. American tank battalions moved in coordinated waves, reconnaissance units with radios pushed ahead, spotter teams, forward observers, jeeps with long-range radios. They spotted enemy positions miles before the tanks arrived, called back coordinates, grid references. Artillery smashed German positions before the Shermans even came into view. When Panthers did engage, they faced crossfires from multiple directions. Shermans didn't duel, they swarmed. Oberst Victor Lang commanded a Panther battalion near Mortain. August 7th, his unit held a ridgeline overlooking the road to Avranches. 12 Panthers, veterans, perfect position, clear fields of fire, interlocking kill zones. They waited for the Americans. The Shermans came at dawn, but they didn't charge the ridge. Instead, they stopped, a mile out, just visible through morning haze. Langer's gunners ranged them 1,500 metres. Perfect. They waited for the order. "Hold fire," Lang ordered. "Let them advance." They didn't. For 20 minutes, the Shermans sat in place, engines idling, not moving, not retreating, just sitting there. Lang watched through his periscope. Something was wrong. Americans didn't wait. They pushed, always. Then the ridge exploded. American artillery, 105mm howitzers, called in by forward observers linked to the tank battalion by radio. The first shells landed among Langer's Panthers before anyone heard the whistle. High explosive, white phosphorus. The ridge disappeared in smoke and fire. Langer's Panthers scattered, 3 disabled immediately, 1 brewing up, ammunition cooking off. Langer's own tank rocked from a near miss, his radio filled with screaming. The Shermans advanced during the barrage. By the time Langer's remaining tanks recovered, American armour was already flanking through a draw his scouts hadn't seen. Radio chatter guided them through, real-time updates, grid coordinates. Langer tried to reposition. His remaining 8 Panthers pulled back, but 3 more were caught in the open, flanking fire. They burned. Langer's battalion retreated. 8 Panthers lost. They destroyed 11 Shermans. Good kills. But the Americans kept coming. 20 more Shermans arrived by afternoon. The radios kept talking. In the Falaise pocket, entire Panzer divisions collapsed under coordinated American and British attacks. German tanks fought individually, heroically, crews with iron crosses and years of experience, but they fought blind. Commanders screamed orders into radios that only reached a third of their unit. Tank crews lost contact with their platoons within minutes of engagement. Some fought alone for hours. Some retreated not knowing their flanks were exposed until British Shermans appeared behind them. American tank companies moved as single organisms. Every crew knew where every other tank was. Every crew heard the same reports, saw the same picture. When one Sherman spotted an enemy, 15 others knew within seconds. When one platoon engaged, another flanked. When a German position hardened, artillery was already inbound, coordinates already transmitted, guns already ranged. The Wehrmacht's tactical radios were excellent, their encryption was strong, their equipment was reliable, German engineering at its finest. But they didn't have enough of them. And in mechanized warfare, communication wasn't an advantage, it was survival. September 1944, the Siegfried Line. German armour pulled back to defend the Reich itself, the border, home. Fuel was scarce, ammunition scarcer. Replacement crews were 18-year-old boys with 3 weeks of training. Some had never fired the main gun before their first engagement. The Panthers and Tigers still killed Shermans, still burned them, still proved superior in armour and firepower, but there were always more Shermans, and the Americans kept learning. Tank commanders developed new tactics specifically for radio coordination. Reconnaissance by fire. One Sherman would shoot at suspected positions, high explosive rounds into tree lines, into buildings, into anywhere an enemy might hide. If return fire came, the entire platoon knew the location instantly. Every tank heard the same transmission. Artillery followed within minutes. Then the flanking manoeuvre, coordinated, simultaneous. German tanks couldn't respond the same way. Every shot revealed their position, but without radios in every tank, they couldn't coordinate suppression and manoeuvre simultaneously. They fired, they displaced, they died. German doctrine emphasized individual tank excellence, superior training, superior equipment, and for years it worked. But the Americans had turned the tank into a team sport. Near Aachen, Hauptmann Ernst Becker commanded the last 7 operational Panthers in his battalion, October 10th. His orders were to delay American armour pushing through the Hürtgen forest. Delay. Not stop. Just delay. Everyone knew the war was lost, but orders were orders. He positioned his tanks in a staggered line, interlocking fields of fire, classic defence, textbook. His crews were exhausted. 2 had been with him since Kursk. The others were replacements, kids, but they followed orders. The Shermans arrived in the afternoon. Becker's gunner acquired the lead tank, 1,200 metres, flank shot, perfect angle. Fire! The Panther's gun roared, the Sherman exploded, turret blown clean off, but the other American tanks didn't scatter, didn't retreat. They pivoted, scanning, coordinating. One fired smoke rounds, white phosphorus screening the advance. Another suppressed Becker's position with high explosive shells. Shrapnel rang off his armour. A third was already moving through the trees to Becker's right. He saw it too late. He tried to radio his wingman. Static. The tank was out of range. Or destroyed, or the radio was dead. He didn't know. His loader was screaming. His driver reversed. Engine screaming. The Sherman fired. Penetration. Side armour. Becker's Panther lurched. The compartment filled with smoke. Ammunition cooked off. Flash. Heat. He bailed out through the hatch. Uniform burning. His gunner didn't make it out. His battalion lost all 7 tanks that afternoon. The Americans lost 14 Shermans, but 20 more arrived the next morning. By winter the pattern was clear. German armoured units were fighting a war they couldn't win, not because their Hedgerow tanks were inferior, not because their Kies crews lacked courage, but because they couldn't see the battlefield the way the Americans did. They were fighting with one eye closed while the enemy had a dozen. Every Sherman was a node in a network. Every crew was part of a hive mind, and the hive mind didn't lose. The Sherman tank never became a legend for its armour or firepower. It became a legend because 50,000 of them talked to each other. German tank crews were among the best trained soldiers in the war. Their machines were marvels of engineering, Panthers, Tigers, masterpieces of German industry. But doctrine didn't adapt fast enough. Radios were expensive, frequencies were limited, training took time, logistics couldn't support universal radio distribution. By the time the Wehrmacht realised what it was missing, the war was already lost. American tankers still died in burning Shermans, still faced 88mm guns that tore through steel like paper, still fought Panthers and Tigers that outclassed them in every measurable way except one. But they fought together, they saw together, they moved together, and in the mud and smoke and chaos of mechanised war, that was the only advantage that mattered. The forests of Normandy are quiet now. The fields near St. Lo are green again. Crops grow where Panthers burned. You can still find pieces of steel in the hedgerows, rusted, half buried, forgotten. But the lesson remains, wars aren't won by the best weapon. They're won by the army that knows where the enemy is and tells everyone else.